There's breaking news tonight, the first concrete step toward consequences for a congressman who put out a photoshopped anime video depicting himself murdering a coworker and attacking the President of the United States. 10 House Democrats tonight announcing they'll introduce a resolution to censure Arizona Republican Paul Gosar. Unclear whether it'll get a vote. That'll be up to the House Democratic leadership. As for the House Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, let's just say there have been no anime videos of him springing into action to discipline one of his own. There wasn't even a silent movie or a single peep, for that matter. For a second straight day, Leader McCarthy had nothing to say at all about Congressman Gosar's video revenge fantasy, pitting himself armed with swords against Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the president. Gosar took it down from social media, but that's no longer the main issue, which is the deafening silence of his party's leadership on it, which, I mean, really shouldn't come as a shock. The GOP these days, with rare exceptions, is not a party all that keen on self-examination, especially when it comes to obnoxious and crude or even outright threatening behavior toward colleagues or the president.
Let's go, Brandon. I yield back.
That's Florida Republican Congressman Bill Posey, ended his remarks last month with the right-wing meme for F. Joe Biden. He said it on the House floor, faced no consequences from his party. He sort of did it in a lackluster way. Didn't really put his heart into it, didn't seem. Remember when Republican Congressman Joe Wilson shouted, "You lie," during Obama's State of the Union speech? That was considered shocking. He faced no consequences as well, actually, from his party, which voted back then overwhelmingly against a resolution of disapproval. As for the priorities this time, well, Republicans, including Leader McCarthy, certainly have found time to drum Congresswoman Liz Cheney out of her leadership position at the former president's bidding. Now, in her case, of course, her offense seems to have been seeking out the truth about January 6th. We invited Speaker McCarthy, of course, on the program for the second time in as many days. And just like his response to the Gosar controversy, we didn't hear anything. So it goes. Perspective now from CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger and S.E. Cupp, conservative columnist and CNN political commentator. Gloria, first of all, what do you make of the plan for a Democrat-led resolution to censure Congressman Gosar? I mean, does that go anywhere? Does that help anything?
Well, you know, we're not sure if it's going to go anywhere. They're going to introduce it on Friday. I think it's not surprising that it comes from the Democrats. Remember, it was the Democrats who voted to strip Marjorie Taylor Greene of her committee assignments, who said, you know, this shall not stand, and they put that on the House floor. So clearly they believe something has to be done. But it's, as you were talking about just a moment ago, where's Kevin McCarthy? This is about leadership. This is about his leadership team. This is about how a member of Congress ought to behave, not about, well, gee, you know, will this hurt me with Donald Trump because Donald Trump likes Paul Gosar, I want to be the next Speaker of the House, and on and on. I mean, there is a moral obligation, it would seem to me, to speak out and say, this can't stand. This person needs to learn a lesson here. And, of course, McCarthy doesn't want to do that.
S.E., I haven't heard the term moral obligation in relation to, I mean, sadly, I mean, I don't say this with any, like, pride, like, in relation to a lot of folks in Congress of late.
I mean, it's no surprise that we're here. The president himself used threatening language against members of Congress, anyone he deemed an enemy, which was the media, which was intelligence officers, which were diplomats. I mean, it didn't really matter. Anyone who came across his path was an enemy, and he really riled people up to turn against their own neighbors. And unsurprisingly, they did. But there's another layer here, Anderson, which is one of misogyny. And women in any kind of public eye get this sort of, they get the death fantasies, we get rape fantasies. I've been subject of some of these, and they're awful. Conservatives really used to rail against that kind of misogyny when it came from political figures like Keith Olbermann or even Rush Limbaugh. Women, though, never should expect to get that from a sitting member of Congress. That's the shocking part, that a sitting member of Congress put out a video wherein he, in an animated way, kills a woman in Congress. I mean, it is shocking. And again, unsurprising, because no one ever expected a sitting president to do that kind of, to use that kind of misogynistic language against women, and yet he did.
I mean, Gloria, the Paul Gosar has a long list of just reprehensible things. I'm not even talking about sort of politically. I'm just talking about just from a human standpoint. He's just been pretty reprehensible of late. I mean, I don't know how long back it goes, but I've only been paying attention to him for a year or so. But how do you square the Republican Party wanting to punish its members for voting to fix bridges and roads, but not punish them, which they're all out there in their states, promoting, frankly,
Right.
but not punishing them for producing a video like this?
It defies explanation. I mean, here they are finally getting some bipartisanship on Capitol Hill, but you have Donald Trump out there, and I guess he's the reason. Donald Trump out there saying, all these people who voted for infrastructure, you've got to defeat them. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene giving out their phone numbers. And why? Don't forget, and I was just thinking about this today, Donald Trump himself signed on to, in theory, a $2 trillion infrastructure plan when he was president, till he walked out on the Democrats because he was mad they were investigating him. But he was for infrastructure until the Democrats voted for it. And why? They don't want to give Joe Biden a win on anything. And Trump came out and said that. And so Republicans are just following because they don't know any other way at this point. And it's really depressing, actually.
So, I mean, Essie, is it going to pay off? The gamble the Republican leadership is making right now, is that going to pay off politically?
Probably. There doesn't seem to be any pain or anger or division that Republicans are not willing to exploit and manipulate to collect votes, to please Trump, to remain in power. And so I don't think there's anywhere they won't go. Nowhere's off limits. I just think, I fear, and I just know this is going to end badly and violently. And I wonder if that's what it will take for Republicans to stop turning Americans against Americans. We already saw the violence it wreaked at the Capitol. We've seen violence. Is that what it's going to take for these guys, for this party, to rediscover their souls? Because that's what it feels like. It feels like there's nowhere they won't go anymore.